Hi guys, welcome back to Nita Crochets. My name is Anita. Today we have a mesh shrug. This one is available to purchase on my website and it is free shipping. I did not leave most of you out because I made a written pattern for this shrug and it's on my Etsy, Ravelry and coffee shop inclusive of sizes small, medium and large. Okay, this is a very super beginner friendly tutorial, so we can all jump onto this one and make it as fast as we possibly can. First, what I'm going to be working with is acrylic yarn. It's 100% acrylic. It is size 2 yarn, so I'm doubling my strands. And this shrug is best made with lightweight yarn, honestly, because it's going to be airy the way you want it, like super airy with the bell sleeves, you know. Then you're going to need a 3.5mm hook, a tape measure and a pair of scissors. Now to get started, we are going to make a slip knot, and for this stitch pattern we are working in sets of 2 plus 5. Sets of 2 plus 5. For example, for sizes small I worked a total of 65 chains, and for sizes medium I advise 75 chains. For sizes large I advise 85 chains. Now, just to be accurate, because most of us are working with different sizes of yarn, please make sure that you're taking your shoulder to shoulder measurements as in the picture right there. Okay, those are the measurements you should consider when starting this starting this pattern. Take those measurements, work chains that are going to be equivalent to sets of 2 plus 5. All right, so for me I am working 65 chains in total, and once I have that I am going to get started on the tutorial. So let me meet you guys there. So here we are. I have all the chains that I need. Now I am going to get into the 7th chain stitch from the hook, and in there I am going to yarn over and work a double crochet into that stitch. Okay, so basically with the 5 extra chains we are having 3 of them act as a stitch, then 1 of them is the one we skip, the other is going to act as the chain 1 for the chain gap. Yeah, so we chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch. All right, chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet in the next stitch. So you see the mesh stitch is really simple. Chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet in the next stitch. So this is what you are going to do for all the stitches all the way across until you get to the end of the row. Okay, so just do this repeatedly until you come to the end of your row, and that's where I'm going to meet you and show you what to do. Now, just in case you find that you have probably your chain gaps are not adding up, or your stitches are not adding up, you probably miscounted or lost a stitch somewhere or skipped a stitch somewhere. Just make sure that you're having accurate stitches so that this stitch pattern adds up at the end of the row. So let me meet you guys there, then show you what to do next. I am right at the end of my row. Okay, this is how your work should look like after your very first row. All right, now what we are going to do next is we are going to chain 4 and then turn our work. 3 of the chains act as a double crochet stitch. Okay, so we skip 1 and get into the next stitch, work our double crochet. You see that? Chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch. You see that? Chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet in the next stitch. Now this is what you are going to do once again for all the stitches, and I'm going to meet you when you are about to get to the end of your row right there, so I show you how to end it. And here we are. I'm almost ending my row. As you can see, I have only one chain gap left, so I'll chain one and I'm going to skip one. So I'm going to work my double crochet into the next chain stitch, okay, which would be like that's, is it fifth? Yeah, the fifth chain stitch of the seven chains that started the previous row. So yes, here I'm going to chain 4, turn my work. 3 of the chains act as a stitch, so I'll skip one and work a double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch. And this is how it's going to be, because this is really, really simple. You chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch. And this you are going to do until you get to the end of your row right there. Okay, so you just do this repeatedly. Okay, do this repeatedly for the next 4 rows. Okay, now here it is. As you can see, this is how my work looks like so far. I have 6 rows in total. I thought I would like make 7, but if you're working for sizes medium and large, I would advise sizes medium to have 8 rows in total and sizes large to have about 10 rows in total. Remember, this is not a shrug that is going to go all the way down your bust. No. It is super, super cropped. So it is like almost halfway your bust area or even less. Yeah. So once we are here, we are going to start working our increase, because we are going to go all the way across under the armpits. So we chain 4 and 3 of the chains act as a stitch. This time we are not skipping a stitch. Instead, we are working a double crochet into the very first stitch, creating a V stitch. Okay. So now we chain 1, skip 1 and work a double crochet into the next stitch. You see how it looks like? So we chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch. Okay, so basically where we put a V stitch is where we want the increment to be, and I need to increase so that, you know, it's like widening going towards underneath my armpits, if you get what I mean. So we are just going to keep chaining 1 and skipping 1 until we have 1 chain gap left to end our row. That's where I'm going to meet you. So here we are, almost at the end of our row. Okay, this is how it looks like. Now what is going to happen here is I am going to chain 1 and skip 1 into the 3rd chain stitch of the 4 chains that started the previous row. I am going to work a double crochet right there. Now once again, I am going to chain 1 and work another double crochet into that very same stitch. So I've created that V stitch, and like I said, this is for an increase. Yeah, and if you want to really, really like be satisfied that we have made an increment, you will count the chain gaps you have on this row and the chain gaps you had on the previous row, and you will see that there is a +2 on those chain gaps. So here we chain 4 once again, and into the very first stitch we are going to work a double crochet. As you can see, once again we are working an increment. Yeah, and then we are going to chain 1 and skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch, just like that. Once again we chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch, and this is exactly what we are just going to keep repeating all the way until we have right here at the end. And here we are going to do exactly what we did previously. Into the 3rd chain stitch we work a double crochet, then chain 1, work another double crochet, so we have 2 double crochets into that same spot. So we repeat this for the next 2 rows so that we have a total of 4 rows of the increase. Okay, now I'm going to get back once you have those 4 rows. Ta-da! Here we are. This tutorial is super fast because honestly this shrug is very simple. So here we are. I have my 4 rows of working increments when starting and ending my row, and this is how my work looks like so far. I am confident that these are the number of rows that I need to go all the way midway my armpit. Yeah. And if you are working for a size large or medium, honestly, I feel like, yes, these are the same number of rows you also need to keep. You don't have to work more than this. This is just enough. So you just have to make sure that the width you have for your project right now is like halfway your bust area, just to be accurate. Or it should be in position to stretch out to meet halfway your bust area. Now at this point, I'll cut my yarn and now get back to the opposite side of my foundation chains. As you can see, I have flipped my work. Yeah. And I'm going to count 7 chain gaps from this end towards the center. Okay. If you're working if you're working sizes medium and large, I advise you go up to 9 chain gaps, 10 chain gaps. We just need to make sure that we are leaving enough room for our head to go through the shrug. So for me and for my size, on this row I have 30 chain gaps in total. So I'm counting 7 and marking that double crochet stitch that marks the 7th chain gap on both sides. Okay. So as you can see, I'm going to get my stitch markers and mark these 2 points so that I know these are for my shoulders. I'm securing this for my shoulders, and what is left at the center is where my head has to go through. Okay, so do the very same thing as well. Just make sure that what you leave at the center is enough for your head to go through it. And once we have that, we are now going to get started on crocheting our back area, because I'm going to pick up from here to crochet the back area so that we don't have like those seam lines. Okay. Now at this point, I'm going to get my yarn and I'm going to insert my yarn into the second stitch right there. Okay. And there I am going to pull through my yarn and make sure I chain 4. Okay, 3 of the chains are going to act as a double crochet stitch. Okay, why I say the second chain stitch is I'm counting from the double crochet, the first, sorry, what should be like the first double crochet, because the other ones were turning chains. Yeah, so make sure that's what you have, and that's how it looks like. Now we are going to skip 1 right there and get into that double crochet and work your double crochet just like that. Then chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1, work your double crochet into the next stitch, and this I am going to do until I get to the chain gap. To the marked double crochet stitch. Okay, until I get to the marked stitch, I'm going to do this. So let me meet you guys there. All right, now that we are at the marked stitch, as you can see, what's going to happen here is I am going to first count the chain gaps that are in between this marked stitch to the other one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Actually, that's 16. So I'm going to say 16 times 2. That's what you also need to do. So I get 32. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to deduct 1 from 32. So that gives me 31 stitches. Now I am going to work 31 chains. Why I deduct the 1 is because there is a double crochet on the other end of the marked stitch that we are going to work which should have been the 32nd stitch. So by deducting it, I get accurate chain stitches that I am going to work, so that on my next row I do not have an excess stitch that shouldn't be in the stitch pattern. I hope you guys clearly understand me. So that's the double crochet stitch we are working, which should have marked the 32nd stitch. All right, now that's what we have. That's what you should also do. That's the mathematics you should apply, just in case you're not working the size I am working. And this is how your work should look like. Now from here we are going to proceed or resume with chaining one, skipping one, and working a double crochet into the next stitch, just like that. And then you chain one, skip one, work a double crochet into the next stitch, and this you do until you come to the end of your row, and that's where I'm going to meet you, then show you how to work the next row. So this is what we have. This is how our work looks like. Now what's going to happen next is we are going to be working chain gaps over this row. But as you can see, this is where we started our front piece going down, and we have 6 rows before the increment. Now the row we have worked is just a row to separate the front piece from the back piece. So this is a row that is going to lie on top of our shoulders. Now to start our actual back piece is this row that we are now starting. Okay, so we are going to chain 4 here and turn our work, and 3 of the chains act as a stitch, so we skip one and get into the next stitch and work a double crochet, then chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch. You see that we chain 1 and skip 1 and work a double crochet into the next stitch. Now here what I am going to do is I'm just going to keep working chaining 1, skipping 1, and working 1 double crochet into the next stitch. And this I am going to do for all the stitches, including the chains that we worked for, you know, for where our head is going to pass. Okay, so just to make sure that we have the actual accurate count, I am working this with you so that you see that deducting that 1 stitch from the total number of stitches that we had to chain or work is the one that actually gives us the accurate number of chain gaps or number of stitches for the chain gaps that we need. Okay, so as you can see, I am chaining 1 and skipping 1 and working a double crochet into the next stitch, and this you are going to do all the way across. So I'm just going to keep doing this as you guys watch on and see how it's turning out. Then I'm going to meet you at the end of the chain so that you see that we have the actual accurate count. So I am here, I am almost at the end of my chains, and here I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to skip that one right there, then get into that stitch and work my double crochet. Now chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch. So you can see that honestly, I know you also gotten the same result on your end if you fed the calculation I shared with you guys into the size, whichever size you're making, you should have accurate stitches for your chain gaps. So yes, here we are at the end of the row, and I'm not going to work the next rows with you guys. As you can see, I'm working into the 3rd chain stitch of the 4 chains that started the previous row. And yeah, this is how it looks like. So this is our very first row for our back piece. Yeah, you see that? So as you can see right here, I had 6 rows going down before the increment. So I'm going to let you guys work the next 5 rows because we have 1 already right there. So just repeat this until you have 5 rows, and once you have 5 rows, you do exactly what we did for our increment for the armpits for the same number of rows that you have on this side. So I'm going to get back once you have worked your increment and also the rows after this. Okay, this is it. This is how your work should look like. This is how your work should look like, and this is where you should be. Yeah, so you can see this is the front part and the other side is our back part, and once you get them together like this, you now get to see that it is coming to life. Yeah, just like that. No seams, no nothing. It's airy and light. Yeah, and it's really in the perfect formation, like any top should have that, you know, increment for the armpits and all that. So yes, this is where we are now. To get started on joining the front to the back, this is what we do. Now, yeah, we're not going to change anything. We are just going to do the very same thing. But now this is what we do. We are going to chain 4, and 3 of the chains act as a stitch. The other chain is for the chain gap. So we chain 4 and work a double crochet into the very first stitch. Yeah, so that means we have created that V stitch, and now we are going to chain 1 and skip 1 and work a double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet in the next stitch, and this is what we are going to do repeatedly all the way across this row until the very last chain gap. That's where I'm going to meet you and show you how to connect it to the back piece. And as you can see, I am almost at the end of my row, so I've already chained 1. Now I'm going to get into the 3rd chain stitch of the 4 chains that started the previous row and work a double crochet. Then I'll chain 1 and once again work 1 double crochet into that very same stitch, just like that. Now I am going to get into the very last stitch on the front part or the back part, insert my hook in there. Sorry, I yarned over, so I insert my hook in there and pull through a loop with the intention of working a double crochet. Yeah, so just like that, I work a double crochet, and in this way I have joined the other part to the front part to the back part. Now I'm going to chain 1, and into that very same stitch I'm going to work a double crochet. So that means I've worked a V stitch or an increase also on this side. Now from here I'll chain 1 and skip 1 and work 1 double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet in the next. And this is what you are going to keep doing until you get to the last chain gap on this row. And then I'll show you how to end the row. So that's how it looks like so far. It's now starting to look like a top. So let me meet you there. Now, as you can see, I have worked all the way up to here, and in the last stitch, I chained 1 and worked a double crochet into it, then chained 1, worked a 2nd double crochet into it. So what happens here is I'm just going to get into the 3rd chain stitch of the 4 chains that started this row, and in there I'm going to work a slip stitch. So to start my next row, because now I have joined both pieces, to start my next row I am going to chain 4 and turn my work. These 2 double crochets that link the front to the back act as 1 stitch. All right, so you are going to skip the next chain stitch and work a double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1, skip 1, work 1 double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet in the next stitch. So just do this repeatedly all the way until you have 1 chain gap, or until you are almost at the joint on the other side right there. That's why I'm going to meet you, then show you how to maneuver this. So yeah, I am over here and this is how my work looks like. So just to get through at this point, this is what you are going to do. Here you are going to chain 1 And like I said, these 2 double crochets right here act as 1 stitch, so we just get into the middle of them and work a double crochet in there. Okay, so now when I get to chain 1, I am going to skip the next chain stitch and get into that double crochet stitch and work a double crochet. See that? Now from here I'm just going to resume the normal chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch until I come to the very last chain gap. That's where I'm going to show you how to end your row, right there. So yeah, here we are, almost at the end of our row. God, I didn't know I ended the row without you guys, but let me just explain something. I worked 1 chain, skipped the next stitch, and then worked a slip stitch into the 3rd chain stitch of the 4 chains that started the previous row. Now to get through with our next stitch, we are going, next row, we are going to chain 4 and turn our work, skip the next stitch, because the 3 chains act as a stitch, skip the next stitch and work a double crochet into the next. Now you just keep working your chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet in the next, and you just keep doing your chain gaps all the way around. Yeah, all the way around until you come to the end of your row. Yeah, so we move all the way around like this. Yeah, all the way around until this point. So we work a double crochet in there, and then chain 1 and work the slip stitch into the 3rd chain stitch right there of the 4 chains that started the row. And this is how your work should look like if you repeatedly keep working what we have done on the previous row for the next 2-3 rows. It's according to what length you want for your top, but yes, this is how your work should look like after 2 or 3 more rows. Yeah, just like I have. Yeah, so yes, now from here I'm just going to work a border design, a simple border design, and I'm working scallops. So I will chain 2, and into that very first stitch I am going to work 3 double crochets. Yeah, into that very first stitch I'll chain 2 and work 3 double crochets. Now I am going to skip, I'll just work 1 more double crochet because there were 2. Now I am going to skip the next chain gap and get into the chain gap and work 1 single crochet. Then once again I'll chain 2, and into that very same chain gap I am working 3 double crochets, just like that. Then I'm going to skip the next chain gap, get into that one after, work a single crochet. You see that? Chain 2. I'll do this one more time so I let you guys work it. Work 3 double crochets into that very same chain gap right there, and once you have those 3 double crochets, you're going to skip the next chain gap, and into the next chain gap after that one you work a single crochet. This is how your work should look like. So just do this all the way around for all the chain gaps, going all the way around with your scallops until you come to the end of the row, and you'll work a slip stitch into the very first scallop that started this row. Then cut your yarn and weave in your ends. So let me get back and show you how my work looks like, then show you how you now work your sleeves. So we are here, and this is how our work has to look like. Yeah, now I am moving on to working my sleeves. Okay, and I'm going to be working along this edge. Yeah, so I'm going to insert my hook into the center of those 2 double crochets that join the front part to the back part right there. I'll insert my hook in there and get my yarn. I'm going to yarn over and pull through my yarn just like that, and I'm going to chain 4. Remember, on the 4 chains, 3 of the chains act as a double crochet stitch. The other 1 chain is for the chain gap. Okay, so once you have all 4, I'm going to be working into the top of every double crochet post. Yeah, so if you don't know what I mean, you see that point where I just inserted my hook into and worked a double crochet. That's the top of that double crochet post. So I'll chain one, yeah, and I'm going to yarn over and get into the top of the next double crochet post and work a double crochet. Make sure you're not working these stitches tightly. Chain one, get into the top of the next double crochet post and work your double crochet. It is that simple. Why I do this is when I'm working along my edges, I usually work 2 single crochets into every double crochet post. So by doing this, I am imagining that the chain one is to skip what would have been that single crochet stitch on that double crochet post. Okay, so yes, we just chain one and work a double crochet into the top of the next double crochet post. And this is what we are going to do all the way around for the whole entire edge and for all the posts around this edge until we get back all the way down at our armpit area. Okay, so just get through with this, and I'm going to meet you almost at the end of your sleeve and show you how to close this row. So here we are, yeah, and as you can see, this is how it looks like. It may look small, but honestly it's going to stretch out and fit. But just in case you feel like the result of what you have is really small, it is as simple as working multiple stitches into one stitch, like a V-stitch into one stitch, just so that it like widens a bit to give you the coverage that you need. So from here we are just going to chain one and get into the third chain stitch of the 4 chains that started the previous, this very row, and work a slip stitch in there. Okay, so yeah, here we are. Now what gives you more width for your sleeve is while you are working the front part, you must have worked extra rows to make sure that the length that you have from top of your shoulder all the way down to your armpit is exactly what you have if you try to use your tape measure onto your body. Okay, so from here we are going to just chain 4. 3 of the chains act as a stitch, and we are going to work a double crochet into the next stitch. So we chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next, and what we have done is exactly what we do all the way around. So I'm going to let you guys get all the way around your sleeve. So yeah, we're just going to do this all the way around, and once we get to the very last chain gap, we shall chain 1 and work a slip stitch into the third chain stitch of the 4 chains that started this row. Okay, right there. So we do this repeatedly until we have the length that goes all the way midway our arm. Okay, so it should be around 15 rows. With me I worked 15 rows. Yeah, 15 rows got me here. Yeah, and now once we are like midway our arm, this is where we are now going to start working increments for our bell sleeve. Yeah, so what we do first of all is we count all the chain gaps that we have on our very last row, divide the number of chain gaps by 2. That gives us where we should mark our center chain gap. Yeah, sorry, I have 17 chain gaps. Sorry, I have 17 rows. Yeah, for my sleeve so far I have 17 rows, and that's why I said for accuracy, make sure it is like midway your arm, like where your elbow or where your arm folds. That's exactly where you should be. So now we are going to count all the chain gaps we have on our very last row. As you can see, why I do this is for me to understand which chain gap or which double crochet stitch is our center. Okay, now that means I'm going to be working an increment into the very first stitch and the marked stitch, which is the center. So our increments are going to be on one side, on the other side of our of our sleeve and this other side of our sleeve, so that we are having that increment that creates that bell effect. So what I have marked is what should be the center of the row. Okay, now to get started on our bell sleeve, this is super simple, super easy, and I'm just going to rush you through it. To get started is I'm going to be working an increment into the very first stitch, like I said, and an increment into the marked stitch. So here we are going to chain 4 and turn our work, and into this very first stitch right there we are going to work a double crochet. So in this way, this means that we have worked a V-stitch, which is an increase. So you work your double crochet into that very same stitch, and after you have that, now you're going to chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1, work a double crochet into the next stitch, and this is what you are going to do until the marked stitch. Okay, so you just keep chaining 1 and skipping 1 and working into the next stitch until the marked stitch. So let me meet you guys there, then show you what to do once you are at the marked stitch. So this is where I am. You can see the next one is the marked stitch. So I will chain 1 and skip 1 and get into that marked stitch, and I'll work my double crochet. Then once again I'm going to, I'll just do this. Sorry, I had forgotten to chain 1. So I'll work my double crochet, and then once again I'm going to chain 1 and work another double crochet into that very same stitch, just like that. So from here I am just going to work the normal thing: chain 1, skip 1, work 1 double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip 1, work 1 double crochet in the next stitch until I come to the end of my row. So that means we have worked 1 row of an increment. Why? We have that V-stitch at the start of the row and midway the row. So this, I will call this my row of increment. So that it doesn't disturb you. I've seen you guys get confused in my previous videos where I say a row of increment and a normal row. What I mean by a row of increment, is that row where we worked an increase. And what I mean by normal row is like a row that we don't have an increase. We are just working the normal stitch pattern. So as you can see, I am getting to the end of my row, and here I'll chain 1 and work a slip stitch into the 3rd chain stitch of the 4 chains that started this row. Now the next row is going to be a normal row. This is what I just explained. The next row is going to be a normal row. What's a normal row? We are chaining 4 and turning our work and skipping 1 and working a double crochet into the next stitch. We chain 1 and skip 1 and work a double crochet into the next stitch, and this is what we are just going to keep doing all the way around until we come to the end of our row. Okay, and once at the end of our row, we chain 1 and work a slip stitch into the 3rd chain stitch of the 4 chains that started the row. Okay, so for the bell, what we do is we work in intervals of 1 row of an increment, 1 normal row, 1 row of an increment, 1 normal row, until it is long enough for the length of our arm. Okay, so to be accurate is after this row, you'll just count all the chain gaps you have on your row, and then get your stitch marker, mark the center chain gap, and do the very same thing we did here. Have a V-stitch when starting the row right here, and then you'll work until the marked stitch that you will have marked, and work your V-stitch once again, then work your row until the end. That's what you do repeatedly: 1 row of an increase, 1 normal row, 1 row of an increase, 1 normal row, until you have the length of the arm that you should have. And once you have that, you're just going to feed the same knowledge from here into your other sleeve. And once you have your second sleeve complete, honey, you have your mesh shrug complete. Yeah, thank you so much guys for watching. I am so glad that I finally did something most of you are really requesting from my Instagram. So thank you so much for watching. Let me see you all in my next tutorial. Bye.